All right, let's talk about something that can feel incredibly overwhelming: massive tax debt. If you're facing it, it can seem like there's no way out. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the IRS's most powerful but often misunderstood tools for handling it: the offer and compromise. And I want to start with this quote because it gets right to the heart of the problem. You see, the biggest reason people fail with this process isn't because they don't actually qualify for help. Nope. It's because the paperwork itself gets rejected. The application is a minefield of tiny details, and one little mistake can get the whole thing thrown out before a human being even seriously reviews your case. So that's our focus today: how to build an application that actually gets through the door. You know, staring at a huge tax bill is just one of the most stressful things you can go through financially. It really can feel like you're standing at the bottom of this enormous mountain, and you have no idea how you're ever going to climb it. But here's the good news: there are paths up that mountain. And just understanding what they are is the very first step. To make this feel real, let's just throw out a number. Imagine you owe the IRS $85,000. For most people, that's not something you can just write a check for. It's the kind of number that keeps you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., feeling like you're completely trapped. And that, of course, leads to the big question, the one everyone in this situation is asking. Is there some kind of lifeline? Is it actually possible to negotiate with the IRS and settle your debt for just a fraction of what you owe? Well, the answer, if you're in the right situation, is a definite yes. And that lifeline has a name. It's called the Offer and Compromise, or OIC for short. This is the official, by-the-book program that the IRS has for people who genuinely cannot pay back everything they owe. So let's really dig into what this thing is. At its most basic level, an OIC is a deal. It's a formal agreement where you and the IRS both say, okay, the full amount isn't collectible, so we'll agree on this smaller amount to settle the debt for good. But, and this is really the key part, it's not a gift. It's all based on a very cold, hard look at your exact financial situation. So let's manage our expectations right now. An offer and compromise is a serious, formal negotiation. You have to prove with a mountain of documents exactly what you can afford to pay. It is absolutely not some magic wand you wave to make your debt vanish. Think of it less like a get-out-of-jail-free card and more like applying for a complex financial loan in reverse. Okay, so how do you actually do this? The absolute key is to assemble what the IRS calls a processable application. The analogy of climbing a mountain is perfect here. This is like getting all your gear perfectly organized before you start. Because if one rope is frayed or one clip is missing, they won't even let you on the mountain. And before you even touch a single form, you have to run this pre-flight check. These are the absolute non-negotiables. If you have unfiled tax returns from past years, stop right there. If you're behind on this year's taxes, you're not ready. And if you're in an active bankruptcy, that's a whole different legal world. If you fail any of these checks, the IRS won't even open your package. Once you've cleared that pre-check, the process itself boils down to these 4 big steps. First, you've got to lay out every single detail of your financial life on a Form 433. Then you use the IRS's own formula to figure out a realistic offer. After that, you make it official on the contract, which is Form 656. And finally, you bundle everything up, and I mean everything, perfectly, and mail it in. Oh, and yes, it's going to cost you something to even apply. You usually have to send a non-refundable application fee. Right now, it's $205, plus your first payment. But, and this is a huge deal for a lot of folks, if your income is below a certain level, you can apply for a low-income certification that lets you skip both of those upfront payments. All right, let's talk more about that processable package. What are these simple, frustrating, and totally avoidable mistakes that will cause the IRS to just stamp "Return to Sender" on your application without even looking at it? You might think this sounds ridiculous, but this is one of the top reasons for an instant rejection. Form 656 is a legal contract. If you don't sign it, it's just a piece of paper. The IRS will immediately send it back. Same goes for your financial forms. No signature, no review. It's that simple. You also have to get the money exactly right. If you're supposed to send in that $205 fee and you send $200, it's coming back. If you miscalculate your initial payment, it's coming back. You have to be precise. And this one shows you how the IRS thinks. They want to see that you're playing by the rules now before they'll even consider a deal in the past. So if you send in your offer, but then a month later you miss a quarterly estimated tax payment, guess what? They can return your entire package for being non-compliant. You have to stay clean. So let's say you did it. You triple-checked everything, you mailed the perfect package, and you get a letter saying it's processable. Fantastic. Now what? Well, now you need to set your expectations for what is almost always a very, very long waiting game. So here's what that journey usually looks like. A few weeks after you mail it, you should get a letter back saying, yep, we got it, it looks complete. That's a huge first step. But then you wait. It can take many months, sometimes over a year, for an IRS officer to get assigned and really dig into your finances. The one piece of good news is that while you're in this waiting period, most of their aggressive collection actions are put on pause. And while you're in that long waiting period, there are 3 really critical things to keep in your head. First, that money you sent in, the fee, the first payment, it's gone. It's non-refundable even if they reject your offer. Second, you have to stay perfectly current on all your new taxes. Don't slip up. And third, here's a wild little rule. If for some reason the IRS doesn't make a final decision within 2 full years, your offer can be automatically accepted by law. So after all of this, what's the one thing I really want you to take away? It all comes back to where we started. Your success or failure with an offer in compromise is less about how compelling your story is and almost entirely about your paperwork. A complete, accurate, processable package is the master key. It's not a guarantee they'll say yes, but without it, the door to that negotiation room never even gets unlocked. So the final question is, are you prepared to build that key?